Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be recommending books to you based off of your Hogwarts house. I have 4 different books for each house, and I have a little bit of fiction, non-fiction, so let's go ahead and get into it. So starting with Gryffindor house, the House of the Brave, I am going to be recommending Percy Jackson and the Olympians. This is a series that I am currently reading and I absolutely love it. I know it's been around for a really long time, but I am finally reading it for the first time, and this has a very similar Harry Potter feel to it. There's a lot of adventure, there's really strong friendships, and there's also Greek mythology, which is really fun. So I feel like Percy as a character reminds me a little bit of Harry. So if you haven't read this series yet, I definitely recommend. And the next book for Gryffindor House is a non-fiction book. This is called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is creative living beyond fear. Sometimes being brave means being absolutely terrified and doing it anyway. And this is one of those books that I refer to when I really want to create something, but I'm just not feeling brave enough to do it. So this is a really great pep talk, especially if you are pursuing something creative. Next up is a book that I recently read this summer, and this is Christina Lauren's new release. This is Something Wilder. This is a romance story with a lot of adventure. This book is so much fun. There is a treasure hunt, and this follows the story of Lily, and she reconnects with her true love for the first time in 10 years. And there's also a ragtag group of guys that are along for the ride, and there's just so many twists and turns. I am a homebody by nature, but this book made me want to go out there and have an adventure of my own. And the last book I want to recommend to the House of the Brave is my favorite thriller, The Whisper Man by Alex North. I recommend this to you Gryffindors because you are going to need some bravery for this one. And if you haven't read this story, I really recommend waiting until autumn because I feel like this is the perfect spooky read. It says, if you leave a door half open, soon you'll hear the whispers spoken. 20 years ago, a serial killer abducted and murdered 5 residents until Frank Carter was finally caught. He was nicknamed the Whisper Man, for he would lure his victims out by whispering at their windows at night. Yes, definitely very, very creepy. So I hope you enjoy this one. Next up is Ravenclaw, the House of the Wise. The first recommendation I have for you is actually a romance novel. This is The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. The reason why I recommend this to you is because this is one of the most brilliant love stories I've ever read. I was not expecting the direction that this went in, but basically all 3 women are in love with the same man, and all 3 of them have been stood up by him on Valentine's Day. I'm not going to say anything else about it because I think it's best to just kind of go into it not knowing very much about it. My next recommendation for the Ravenclaw house is A Million Junes by Emily Henry. This is one of Emily Henry's young adult novels, and this is kind of a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and this book is so creative, so imaginative. I absolutely love this story. It's very strange in the best way, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I think Ravenclaws will really appreciate this one. So my next recommendation for the Ravenclaw house is a book about bullet journaling, because I follow a lot of Ravenclaws on Bookstagram, and a lot of them really enjoy bullet journaling. So I recommend the Bullet Journal Method by writer Carol. This is track the past, order the present, and design the future. I am very passionate about bullet journaling, and I just really love it because It's a place where you can be really creative. It's a place where you can track your habits and write down your memories, and you can pretty much just cater it to whatever you need it to be. So I think this is really great for if you're just starting out bullet journaling, or also if you just want some more inspiration. My last recommendation to the Ravenclaw house is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I think Ravenclaws will really enjoy piecing together this mystery. I read this in one sitting. It was so fast-paced and so much fun. Moving on to the Slytherin house, the House of Ambition. So my first recommendation to you guys is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I think that the main character, Nora, is definitely a Slytherin. She is known for being a cutthroat literary agent, and Nora agrees to go to a small town in North Carolina with her sister, and she keeps bumping into Charlie Lastra, a bookish, brooding editor from back in the city. It would be a meet cute if not for the fact that they've met many times before and it's never been cute. So this is a really great enemies to lovers story. If you've never read an Emily Henry book, she is just incredible. Next up is another romance novel, and this is also an enemies to lovers story. This is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. One of my best friends is in Slytherin, and this is one of her favorites, so I thought I would recommend it to you guys. And basically this is not only enemies to lovers, but it's like a fake dating trope. It says, for two sworn enemies on the Hawaiian trip of a lifetime, anything can happen, maybe even love. Next up, I wanted to recommend a thriller because I feel like Slytherins would enjoy a good thriller. So this is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. You get the point of view of the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. All have a secret, all have a motive, but only one is a murderer. I love this book because it's such an atmospheric read. It takes place on a remote island in Ireland, and it's just very rainy and dark, and it just really sets the tone for the story. My last recommendation to the House of Ambition is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Tiny changes, remarkable results. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. This is my favorite nonfiction book, and it truly has changed my life. So I feel like the Slytherin house, since you guys are very ambitious, goal-oriented, I think this would be a really great read for you. So I saved the Hufflepuff house for last because that is my house. So my first recommendation to my fellow Hufflepuffs is a classic. This is Little Women, and I read this for the first time this year, and it quickly became one of my favorite books ever. This has a really strong theme of family and hard work and patience, and I definitely think that Beth March is one of the most Hufflepuff characters that I've ever come across. So yeah, I really recommend this one. And then next up is a poetry book, and this is my favorite poetry book. It's called All Along You Were Blooming by Morgan Harper Nichols. So this has lots of beautiful poetry and artwork, and it actually has 4 different sections. For the heart, what you feel. For the mind, what you think. For the body, what you do. And for the soul, who you are. So I think this is just such a beautiful, gentle collection of poetry, and it just feels very Hufflepuff to me. My next recommendation is written by a fellow Hufflepuff. This is The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is my favorite John Green book, and I read this at the beginning of the year, and I still think about it to this day. It was so impactful, and this is a collection of essays, and I just love how vulnerable John Green is, and he writes about so many random things. Some things are lighter subjects and some things are heavier topics. He kind of just goes through it all, and it is so beautiful. And like I said, I still think about it to this day. I definitely cried a couple of times and I definitely learned a lot of random facts. So yeah, this is such a good one. And then my last recommendation to the Hufflepuff house is actually one that I first think of when I hear the word Hufflepuff. This is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. The main character, Lara Jean, is a Hufflepuff, and I feel like most people know the plot of this story, but if you aren't familiar with it, basically Lara Jean has written all of these love letters, and they are mysteriously sent out to all of the guys, and this has fake dating in it, which is my favorite trope. Lara Jean and Peter Kay are the absolute cutest, and not only do I recommend the book, but I also recommend the films as well. Yeah, those are all of my recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for your own house, for other houses, feel free to write them in the comments down below, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!